Hello, I'm Tootight Lautrec and welcome back to Glitterature Alley, your back street, off the beaten path, under the radar and beyond the pale place to sparkle up your senses while we talk about all things literary. And happy September. The world is on fire, the murder rate is up, the orange monster is let loose upon the world, but it's ShakeTube 2020, so damn it, let's talk about Shakespeare. I do have to admit I am tremendously grateful for ShakeTube 2020 because it's giving me a chance to read some of the plays that I have no good excuse for not having read before. And today I'm going to talk about Love's Labour's Lost, which I'll disappear my wand. I will say right here, right now, I had a very difficult time reading this play. And part of that is because the language is over 400 years old, and while I am over 5,000 years old, the English vernacular from 400 years ago is just a little bit more than my memory can handle. And while I do remember a few cases of vernacular that I'd like to forget, that's a topic for a different video on a different channel. So I have a new edition, a new favorite kind of edition for the singular plays. But before I get into that, I will talk about how I had great hopes for this. Here's our friend Shakespeare right there. This the Norton Shakespeare based on the Oxford edition, thinking that I'd have one of those lovely Norton anthologies with every single Shakespeare play in it. And lo and behold, it has many Shakespeare plays, but it doesn't have the two that I chose to talk about this month for ShakeTube. So, to that. My new favorite is I used to love the Kittredge editions before, but now there's the new Kittredge Shakespeare, and these are the ones that I prefer. So I had difficulty reading the play, partially because the 400-year-old English, partially because of the malapropisms that are in this play based on that 400-year-old English, and also because there are many foreign languages in the play, and puns on those languages and malapropisms within those languages, and mispronunciations of those languages too, that I didn't quite pick up on my reading, and I realized that I'd have to hie me hither to some sort of filmed version of Love's Labour's Lost because all the theaters are closed here. And luckily, the thing that I like about these new Kittredge Shakespeares is that it gives production notes about performances that have been either staged or filmed, and it gives me a little bit more insight as to what's going on the stage. So thankfully, I read some of these notes about the Kenneth Branagh version, and I knew right away that I did not want to see that because he strays a little bit too far from the original for my taste. But I did find a lovely BBC version that was filmed in 1975 with the men in delightfully tight tights and complete with padded codpieces. And you know, as far as I'm concerned, the tights can't be too tight enough, and I'm a big sucker for a codpiece, a nice codpiece. So I'll link that below so that you can see it too. Even if you watch it with the sound off, it's completely delightful. But so after seeing this filmed version, I realized that my difficulty can't be completely blamed on my inability to access 400-year-old language. What I realized is that Love's Labour's Lost has no plot. The action in it is ridiculous. The digressions are frankly unbelievable, and the whole story borders on being nonsensical. And yet, casting in tight tights aside, which tight tights aside is how I usually like them, but besides that, it's a delightfully fun play. And I think of Love's Labour's Lost now as a young man's play about young men playing. And the characters, the actors who were playing the characters were not teenage, but they might just as well have been, as far as I can see, because of the way that they acted. So, and the basic premise of it is the language. The language is the star of the show. It's not necessarily what happens, it's the language play that occurs within the play that's really the delight. So the basic premise is ridiculous, but there's a king and his 3 lords, and they make a vow to live ascetic lives for 3 years. Fast, study, and give up women. They decree that no woman can come within 1 mile of them, and if she does, her tongue must be cut out. And whoever speaks to her, whatever man speaks to her, shall endure such public shame as the rest of the court can devise. And right off the bat, the woman's punishment is she gets her tongue cut off, and the man's punishment is shame. Kind of hard to tell which one you take, huh? So obviously those were rules that the men made, and as we see, it doesn't come to pass that way, because lo and behold, oh my goodness, they forgot that in fact a princess is coming with her 3 ladies. What a coincidence. So while we have to figure out what to do about our vow, we'll set it a little bit to the side, but of course it's our vow, so we'll keep strong to that vow. What to do, what to do, what to do. So from here it's broken vows, love proclaimed, and romantic hijinks for everyone, or at least the lads anyway. The women, it turns out, just aren't that into them. So meanwhile, a whole slew of minor characters highlight the ridiculousness of the whole idea of empty vows, of celibacy, and the highfalutin pretensions of the intelligentsia. And it's the minor characters that actually steal the show with their verbal gymnastics, their malapropisms, and their high pretentiousness. And because Love's Labour's Lost is all about the uses and abuses of language, of course, the men attempt to woo their crushes by sending them poems. And this reminded me immediately of Jane Austen in Pride and Prejudice, where Elizabeth Bennet is talking to Mr. Darcy, and they say that, a way to win a woman's heart is to send her a poem. And Elizabeth Bennet says that actually one good sonnet will starve a crush entirely away. And we'll see that she wasn't too far off in that. So, and then obviously, since I've made Shakespeare sonnets my thing, I'd be remiss if I didn't look at the poems that were sent to these ladies to woo them. So there's the king and his 3 lords. Barone, who is sort of the star of the show, Longueville, and what's the 4th one's name? The king, Longueville, and Dumaine. So Barone's sonnet is by far the best. It's a proper sonnet, 14 lines in Shakespearean rhyme. And the gist of it is that I break my vow of celibacy and study, but even though I've broken those, trust me, I'll be keeping my vow to love you. You can teach me all I need. And later on, when all of their fakery is discovered by each other, all the lads' fakery is discovered by one another, Barone repeats this argument in a pretty persuasive argument that says to the other 3, let's go for the gusto and woo those ladies. So the king's poem is a clunky and clumsy 16-line poem that's not really all that flattering. The gist of that is, loving you gives me tremendous grief, and I'm miserably in love with you. It's not very well executed to begin with, and not very flattering, so good luck with that, king. Longueville's poem is also a proper sonnet. And his argument is similar to Barone's. If I break my vows, you can't blame me for breaking my vows because I vowed not to love a woman, but you're a goddess, so, you know, I'm okay. And Barone, who's sitting in a tree and listening to this, I can't think of a polite term for it, says that it's like his logic could make a green goose a goddess, and a green goose is a green goose, but a green goose is also a prostitute. So Barone sees the folly in Longaville's poem without looking at his own folly. Dumain's poem is a right mess. It's 20 lines, 7 beats per line, rhymed couplets. It sounds like a children's poem, and it's sort of the inverse logic of Longaville's, which is that I love you, and even Jupiter, the god, would give up being a god if he could fall in love with you. So at this point, it's all about boys lusting after girls who they don't really know, even though we learn a little bit later that they've met previously, but just scantily. But love? No, not yet. So the rest of the play is the girls being suspicious and standoffish and rightfully not trusting the juvenile antics of the boys. Flirtation, music, mistaken identities, mocking, until at the end of the play they come to an understanding of sorts and they couple up into their couples and sit down and watch a play performed for them by the rustics, the minor characters. And right in the middle of that, in rides a messenger to tell everyone that the princess's father is dead. Nice way to kill a party, I'd say. So the women tell the men, we're going to go off for a year and mourn. And if you can get your act together, if you can mature in your various ways, if you can grow up a little bit, at the end of that year, give us a call. Maybe we can talk. And it's a very strange way to end the play. It's not a normal comedy. Nobody gets married at the end. And on top of that, there's this song, just as the princess is about to go off and mourn for her king with her 3 ladies, for her father, the king. One of the rustics comes up and says, oh, wait, we're not done with the play yet. We have a song for you that's part of the play, so can we sing that for you? And the princess graciously says, sure. And I found this to be tremendously confusing, and it's quite a famous song. It's a song about spring and about winter, and I couldn't figure out necessarily how to think about this until I read it through a little bit more carefully, and I realized that the song about spring is all about irresponsible sex. There's the cuckoo that's you can hear, that's the bird being sung through the spring verse, and the cuckoo, of course, is someone who's cheating on someone else. So it's all about having sex and having fun and living life in the spring of your time. And the winter song is still quite happy and joyous, but it seems to me that it's more about mature domestic bliss. In fact, I have done a lip sync of that winter poem, and I'll link that below. I did it one year for Christmas. Samantha Bond does a lovely reading of it, and I'll link that below along with the delightfully tights version of the 1975 BBC production of Love's Labour's Lost. And you can watch that even with the sound off, and it's delightful. So I am Tootight Lautrec. I hope wherever you are safe and sound, and that you are able to pay attention to all the wonders that are in your world. Until we meet again. Mwah.